Hello and welcome to my channel. Go ahead, hit the like, hit the share, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure your notifications are on all. That way you're not missing any of my uploads. Now I'm watching people spin their content pertaining to this witness who has decided not to cooperate and testify. Well, it's very interesting that when it came to Robert Kelly, some of his accusers came out publicly saying that they were threatened with jail time if they didn't testify. So I'm just wondering why that same tactic isn't used when it comes to this Diddy case, especially when it came to Robert Kelly. There were certain things that were threatening a mistrial, and according to some of these recordings, they're saying that without this key testimony, there's a potential for a mistrial when it comes to Diddy. On the other hand, when it came to Robert Kelly, we heard this propaganda about nobody caring about the black girl, that all of these platforms just wanted to give these accusers voices. But it's mighty damn funny when it came to certain individuals, that same logic doesn't apply. When it came to individuals who should have been required to testify in order to confirm or deny certain allegations waged by the government, they were missing in action. And we had to watch Robert Kelly being picked up as a result of an investigation prompted by a janky-ass scripted docuseries that brought back all of these past allegations surrounding Robert Kelly's career that could have easily been vetted, that people clearly turned a blind eye to when it came to the double jeopardy factor, simply because it went from a state case to a federal case. Yet, just as I said when it came to this Surviving R. Kelly masterpiece, people should have acted legally to take down this docuseries, take down these negative articles that keep spinning these same stories over and over, that led to me revealing some of these so-called bad act witnesses that the government was able to use in order to form this notion of predicate acts, because Robert Kelly clearly didn't have the criminal background as those that the government gave immunity deals to and made certain propositions in order to get them to corroborate their case. However, with all of the one-sided coverage and the constant distractions that were used on these platforms to keep the public away from all of the misconduct and janky business that was going on in order to facilitate this conviction, many are still blind to a lot of the revelations that came out in court that would show the government never proved their case. They never proved that Robert Kelly was guilty of any of the allegations waged against him. However, because they had these individuals to testify to specific stories, that is what was used in order to get this conviction, not an overwhelming weight of evidence as it was presented to the public. Yet when I brought to the public more factors to give Robert Kelly reasonable doubt, including what led to some of these so-called settlements, which could clearly be more evidence of extortion and fraud amongst these people who only looked out for their interests, not R. Kelly, the brand. So I said all that to say this. When they came out here telling us nobody cared about the black woman and they wanted to give these women these voices, but they didn't want to actually hold the people that they claim were part of this enterprise accountable, unlike what they said, it should be a no-brainer why I find it suspect so many individuals were missing in action when it came to their testimonies. And the testimonies they used did not actually validate that crimes were being committed when, again, they're not prosecuting the individuals who were participating in these crimes. Yet when people can skip around the shakedown and extortion that was going on, and skip around how a specific attorney by the name of Linda Mensch was ran down, and even though they have all of this so-called evidence to track down who did this to her, considering they did all this work in the FBG Duck case, they're not taking that same interest when it comes to this specific attorney, and I wonder why. According to Linda Mensch's family, all of their efforts to seek justice on her behalf have been pushed aside, and all of the things that could have led to a mistrial in R. Kelly's case were swept under the rug. Meanwhile, as I mentioned earlier in this video, we see people putting out the narratives about this witness that's missing in action being paid off and a potential mistrial for Diddy. We take note to the fact that no power of attorney had to step in and fire any attorneys for Diddy like certain individuals had to do for Robert Kelly, while all of these YouTubers tried to play the defense team online, yet couldn't manage to get too much of shit introduced into the courthouse when it came to properly defending Robert Kelly as they did capping for these YouTube streets, including the janky-ass private investigator. When it comes to Diddy, contrary to popular belief, we didn't see the same shenanigans when people were alleging Diddy was trying to get specific bloggers to report certain things. However, we saw a whole lot of meddling when it came to Robert Kelly's case, including individuals who had nothing to do with the case at hand that was interfering with the due process of Robert Kelly, while making it blatantly obvious why I mentioned an ineffective counsel that a lot of people wanted to take your focus off of. So with that all said and done, I used Robert Kelly's case to set the precedent for all of the things that we would see as we do on these platforms. Another difference between Robert Kelly and Diddy? Clearly, Diddy has more access to certain resources that Robert Kelly was denied and had to rely on specific individuals to plead his case and or handle his business affairs. And we see how that went for Robert Kelly. So let's stay tuned and see how this case proceeds in the matter of Diddy versus the industry.